Come on and get in.
Hey there, welcome to Michael on the Go, Catholic Family Man Edition, and I am your host, Michael Giannotti. Pope Francis says, be more like Ted. So today I'm sitting in the parking lot. I'm getting ready to go pick up grass seed to do my annual seeding of the yard. We're going to aerate and seed. And you know, as I was doing so, a couple of things come to mind. And really today's gospel reflection, where they talk about you cannot serve two masters, you know, mammon, you know, and God, it's around money and service to the Lord. But there was one particular Bible verse, one particular piece of the scripture that kind of jumped out at me in isolation and made me think about Pope Francis and what he's been calling us to, reiterating and echoing the words of Christ and my friend Ted. And it was around in the small things, right? In the small things, when we're faithful in the small things, you know, trusting someone if they're faithful in the small things. And Christ calls us to really bring him into the small and everyday. And if you look at what Pope Francis has been calling us to, you know, this idea of, with the new evangelization, of seeding, right? The seeds of faith, spreading the seeds of faith and bringing them in. How does the Pope, how has he been saying to do that? Well, he's simply been echoing the words of Christ. You know, it's no new teaching. It's a re-emphasis and a calling back to the basics, to what St. Francis, you know, set about doing. And that is, whatsoever you do to the least of my brethren, you do unto me. Calling us to be the hands and feet of Christ, one body, but many parts, reaching out, you know, seeing the face of Christ in the poor and the dispirited. And Pope Francis has been making a renewal of that call. And we saw St. Francis was, you know, at the time, you know, shedding and taking all the trappings of traditional religion and instead focusing back and stripping himself of wealth and taking on poverty to serve, to be a pure service for God. And Pope Francis has been calling all of us in our own way to see beyond our circumstances, to look at those in most need, the downtrodden, the poor, the disenfranchised, and to see within those the face of Christ. And he's been calling us to act. And you know, when I think about today, in the everyday, the small, being faithful in the small things, in the scripture reading, it brought to mind my friend Ted. And so that's kind of the thrust of this. So I met Ted a number of years ago in youth group down in North Carolina when we were involved with the youth ministry down there. And Ted and his wife and family, you know, just great people, love them to death. And we've kind of went our separate ways over the years. They've moved up to Massachusetts. Ted is a, you know, executive at one of the largest tech companies in the world, a very busy man, important, very busy in his family, very busy and important at work. You know, here's this guy who you think of as, you know, somebody who's made it in the terms of the world. But what most strikes me about Ted is his ability to move out of himself. And this summer, he came to visit us. He stayed with us while his son was attending a local basketball camp, and he drove him down, stayed with us. And we were talking about, you know, the people that you oftentimes see outside of stores, etc., you know, begging for money. And Ted, like many of us, Ted is not, he's not naive to know, you know, to not realize that a lot of times it's going to be scams or other things, or people take the money and go buy booze. But what Ted has done is move beyond his comfort zone, and it's something he does often. And he was relating this one incident, so I'm going to relate to you. And it's really that idea of moving aside, you know, taking our thoughts and feelings and our natural reaction, our worldly reaction, to want to look away, to avoid eye contact, to, you know, keep going, and then excuse it in ourselves that, oh, they're probably just going to use the money for this, or it's probably just a scam. And instead, Ted said that he was out, you know, he made a stop to get some iced tea, and he stopped at a grocery store on his way after dropping off his son when he was coming to stay at our house. And he said, there was a guy out there, and he said, you know, help American vet, you know, give money. And he the guy, he saw him, and instead of turning away, looking away, saying, oh, no, thank you, and whatever, and moving on, Ted looked at the man, and he looked at him as Christ would. And he said, what is it you're looking for? And the guy said, some money. And he said, no. What do you really need? Oh, money, money. No, what is it you need? He said this several times. Finally, the guy said, I'm hungry. And he said, okay, come with me. That's what Francis calls us to. That's what Christ calls us to. To see beyond, the image and our natural inclinations, and to look. And he said he looked at the man. He could tell he was hungry. He could tell there was things, but he wanted to see what was the real need and to look beyond. It's easy to move beyond, but he wanted to see to the real need. And the man said, I'm hungry. So what was his reaction? The same reaction that Christ would call us to. Come with me. Welcoming. That's what, Francis is calling us. Welcoming those to the faith. Welcoming them in. Drawing them and attending to their needs. That's what Mother Teresa used to do. And so, what he did was he brought him into the grocery store. He said, look, whatever you want to eat, any food, something to drink, whatever, pick whatever you want and I'll get that for you while I get this. And he, Ted got his iced tea and he said he accompanied the man, and the guy was a little reticent and, didn't want to take too much. He's like, no, what do you really want? Do you want some of this? Do you want this food? And he ended up getting him a sandwich made and food, some extra groceries, something to drink with the meals. It was some juice, and he got him some extra. But he ended up sending the man off with things the man really needed. In the meantime, sharing with him, not, preaching to him, but just sharing, hey, that's what Christ calls us to, and I'll keep you in prayer, and, and showing him Christ's love. We are called to be that person, faithful in the little things. And in this little thing, seeing the face of the poor, Ted was faithful. Ted was faithful in the little things that Christ had entrusted him. And that's what the Pope is calling us to. The Pope's telling us, be more like Ted. When we see the face of the poor, when we see the face of the hurting, instead of turning away in a society where we talk about social media and connecting, so often we don't really connect, only superficially. We need to connect at people where they need. Maybe it's taking some time to help people at a soup kitchen and to serve meals with a smile on your face and kind words of encouragement and showing someone you care. Maybe it's like Ted, inviting what do you really need? Walking them into the McDonald's, Burger King, or restaurant or whatever, and getting them some food, something to warm them up, right? We have winter approaching. Maybe bringing them into the store, the Walmart or Kmart, getting them a blanket, a coat, and some food. It's taking the time to reach out and not only pray for people, but to see to their real needs in the moment. Be Christ's hand, be Christ's feet. Be like Ted. That's what the Pope's calling us to do. So with that, just some food for thought. I got to go in to get my seed, but we all have the chance to spread the seed of faith by being Christ's hands and Christ's feet and showing Christ's love and seeing Christ's face in those in most need. With that, this is Michael on the Go, Catholic Family Man Edition, bidding you be like Ted. God bless and have a great day.